Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to do some special selections today. That's where one of you tell me exactly what you want me to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Dustin. It says, in the live streams, I always request Japanese music since that's the majority of my library. For my special selection, I decided to go for something which continues this pattern but in a different way. I'd like to suggest Blade in the Snow by Whispered, a Finnish band. It's a song that depicts a legendary duel that took place on a bridge in Kyoto over 900 years ago. This group typically plays somewhat standard melodic metal, but there are few exceptions. I went and checked out that Wikipedia link to Benkei, and it's really interesting that this legendary duel is part folklore, possibly true, but it revolves around Benkei, a master swordsman who fights a much younger swordsman on a bridge, and there's this epic duel that goes on, and Benkei loses. Benkei loses and becomes the second in command to this younger swordsman. It kind of reminds me. This is one thing that I love about history across different cultures is that it reminds me a lot of Robin Hood with Little John. So it's always interesting to see the parallels between different regions or different cultures, folklores, and stories. Anyways, so we have this song about an epic sword fight. Let's get into this one. It's called Blade in the Snow by Whispered. Yeah, so right off the bat, we have some Japanese instruments here. I always forget the name of this one. I'm pretty sure it's the one that's the board. It lays horizontal and the strings go across it left and right. Beautiful instrument though. Gorgeous. I love how they're incorporating a lot of the bends that are utilized in traditional Japanese music as well. A nice rhythmic playfulness to this as well. Yeah, I love how there's this adventurous element to it. A little bit of danger, a little bit of oomph, of energy, but there's still this light playfulness to it. Lots of layers going around too. A lot of stuff going on at the same time. the gorgeous intro. If this is their bread and butter, it's really impressive that they could get that intro written as well. Yeah, switch it up to this chugging rhythm underneath. Okay. Very unique vocal style, though. It's like a halfway between a compressed, gritty clean and like a growl.
White, slowly fall, grows silent the land again. Leaves wither, speak the words unheard, yet true.
I love how they're still incorporating some of those instruments from the intro into the music here. Yeah, that was actually a really clean transition despite the harsh change.
Silent are the woods, silent are the waters, silent is the bridge, once surrounded by a wall of steel. One arrived, two walked away, nothing stayed the same. To feel the life in every breath, every soul he takes, that is the way of a warrior. Stars so far away.
There's also a lot of emphasis on the plosives in this vocal style. The S's are, everything is highly exaggerated. It's very interesting. Gorgeous, really pulling in the width of all the instruments they have available to them. That was a real gritty opening note to that solo. Yeah, get some keyboard in here. Yeah, I liked almost all those solos. Just really nice. Great flow, great showmanship. That's not it. It's not over yet, is it? No. Okay. It's very interesting. This feels like two songs smashed together. I do like the choir. It's really rounding out this finale and allowing it to hit those heights when we've already had some really high moments so far.
Hidden in the nothingness,
Yeah, and once again, just a really nice melody in that guitar line.
Rivers reveal. It is our path defining our desires defining our goal defining our deeds defining who we are. Spring flowers, winter snows. There's no being or non-being, nor denial itself.
Yeah, nice little drum run there. Ooh, what was that? I think that was the synthesizer, the keyboard with a pitch modulator, and it just like slid right into that tonality, just sliding into pitch with everyone else. Um, huh. So this song was interesting. I don't think I've heard anything like it before. And that I don't want to say that's for worse. Definitely for better to see music expanding and doing new things. 100%. There's just a lot of interesting decisions throughout this song that I don't think I'm fully supportive of, but in the idea of their expression and trying new things and you know, doing things outside the box, I appreciate that they did them. First, I think we're going to start with some of the more positive elements, and we're going to move into some of the things that I don't think worked as well. Um, and yeah, I think yeah, that's how that's how we're going to go about this one. Positive elements for sure. We have a story based off of a Japanese tale, and we have a ton of Japanese instrumentation in here. That alone would have been a highlight for me, just to say, we are paying homage or respect towards this culture. We're utilizing their story. We're going to include their instrumentation as well. But the fact that they went and took it a next step and said, we're not just going to use the sounds of these instruments, we're going to utilize them as they are traditionally utilized. I mentioned that there are a ton of those very classical Japanese style bends and slides. Um, it's not utilized so much in the more pure rock sections, but definitely when we bring in the folk instruments, it's all over the place. And I just love that small attention to detail of allowing that culture again to shine through, not just in the timbres and the way that it sounds, but also utilizing compositional tools that were widely used for these instruments. Um, even like the quick runs up and down, moving between high notes to low notes. It's just something that I find synonymous with that instrument. And I wish I could remember the name of the instrument. I do. Uh, Dang, what was that other band we checked out? It was a Japanese band that incorporated folk instruments with rock instruments, and they had one of these. And I don't know, this name for whatever it is always escapes my mind, and it's a bit of a shame. because, like I said, it is a gorgeous instrument. I love it. It has a really nice sound to it. But they're utilizing these instruments in the ways that would traditionally be they would be used in, and like I said, I think that's the cherry on top. Um, I also like that they are utilized not just in their own context, but also inside the context of the rock music, the metal. It is a bit rare of an occasion for sure, but they do pop up every now and then, and I think it's really cool hearing those tones and timbres against some of the rock sounds. I don't think that's something. Well, I was gonna say I don't think that's something I heard before, but it is. I just talked about it. um, in that band that combines them. Um, but yeah, it is a rarer sound, that's for sure. Um, what was another? Oh, I enjoy his vocals. They're very interesting. It's like if Dave Mustaine from Megadeth needed a lozenge, and it's actually really cool. It has the grit of a harsh, like a more of a traditional harsh, a growl or something, but it's still very audible to me. I can pick out syllables, I can pick out words. It has the elements of the harshness, that compression, the crackle, the distortion to it. Um, but it also, at least to me, is listenable. I can understand what's being said, and I think it's a fantastic middle ground between those two styles. A clean and a harsh. Uh, the layering in here is wild. I absolutely love all the ways that the melodies and textural ideas, atmospheric ideas come in, especially in the bigger, the larger than life sections that we see throughout, where they bring in horns and strings and keyboards and guitars and drums and vocals, and it's just a lot of stuff. And they find a fantastic way of creating something very theatric out of this. In fact, that might be a good word for the entire song. It is very theatric, and I absolutely love it. I could see several sections of this song being a soundtrack to a play or a film of this specific tale. It does a fantastic job of meeting the task at hand of creating a sound that would fit this tale, while also really working in, I think, a lot of the emotions that work for it. Uh, I mentioned at the beginning that despite some of the impending danger and stress that we saw kind of cropping up underneath in the intro section, that it was still very playful, very fun, very lighthearted. And I think that's important because as the tale goes, these two swordsmen meet and they do battle, and it is not a battle to the death. There's definitely a feeling, at least to me, of sparring in it. And then afterwards, I mentioned that Benkei decides to join the younger swordsman as his right hand man. Um, there is no imminent danger. This is two highly trained swordsmen who are, at least to me, it sounds like, enjoying the thrill of the fight. Seeing who's better and pushing their bodies and their skills and their limits. It's two people who absolutely love what they do and are skilled at it, having a friendly little battle, and in it creating a bond. I don't know. I haven't read the tale itself, but from the synopsis, it sounds like Benkei chose to join the younger swordsman rather than being forced to because he lost. So, like I said, there's this element of bonding going on through the battle. So I think it's important that the danger's there, the intensity's there. It's not like this was you know a fight where you would throw your punches, I suppose. But it wasn't a fight to the death. And I think having that brightness, that bounciness to it, the sort of playful element in the atmosphere works so well with this story. Like I said, they found a sound that works very well as a soundtrack to this specific tale, and that to me is one of the strongest parts about it, is keeping that playfulness throughout. I don't think there was any part of this song that really went hard into despair or desperation or danger. It was all pretty much kept on the more upbeat side. There was one section, I think it was supposed to be during the final moments of the battle, when we really hit more of a heavier kind of a breakdown section, as far as a metal, naming it a metal section, I call it a breakdown. That was a bit heavier than the rest. It didn't really have any of the brightness, but other than that, 45 seconds or whatever, the song really does keep this upbeat attitude, and I think it's perfect. It really is. There's the whimsy of it. There's the adventure. Whimsy might be the wrong word. It's an adventurous song. There's fun. There's hints of danger. But there's action. It's a very exciting song. But in the end, there isn't really much of that dread of a failure. And I think that's very important to keeping the tone correct. Um, oh, the solos. I do want to bring up the solos. I do think it was interesting. They got 8 bars each, give or take, and they were just passing around these 8 bars. It makes the solos feel a bit short, but I do enjoy kind of how the solos blended together to create a single melodic narrative. And I do really like how there was some showmanship to it. We had some nice runs, but they also gave the solos time to breathe and feel out the emotions that they were trying to capture with the solos. It wasn't just about shredding; they knew how to tell a story with their melody lines as well, which is prevalent throughout. It's no surprise to me that the solos are done the way they are when the rest of the song's melodies are written just as well, especially since we had seen melodies for or heard melodies for 10 minutes before we reached this part, give or take. So like I said, it makes sense. It's the kind of solo I was expecting. The drumming was killer. We had tons of really nice runs throughout, very precise. I wouldn't say there's any aspect that really stood out to me. There was that really nice extended tom fill there at the end, super precise, but for the most part it was just really solid drumming. I do want to touch on the vocals real quick before we move on. Uh, they are heavily exaggerated, for better or worse. I'm not sure if I enjoyed this aspect about it. S's were extended and started early. You could hear the sizzle coming into the S, and there is the hiss coming off of S's. Some of his stuff was even his syllables were slurred into each other rather than having clean breaks between words. Um, and his plosives were highly emphasized, uh, especially with his P's. It really felt like he was getting a lot of air behind him, getting that nice big plosive sound, and it gives it this uh, hyper exaggerated element, but at the same time introduces a lot of excitement to the song, to his vocal delivery. There's a lot of energy to it, and I think it matches the tale of this legendary sword battle. It's an interesting idea, and I don't know if the vocalist does it all the time. It definitely stands out to me. I hear these over exaggerations of syllables and sounds so much throughout it. And like I said, it works right here. I don't know if I'd feel the same way about other songs, but here I think it works because it adds the energy to the vocal delivery that I think matches what's going on in the story. But it is something that caught me off guard. I heard it immediately. I think that's everything I really wanted to point out positively. Although song structure I think deserves it too. We spend 15 and a half minutes and we see a lot of different sections, and they all for the most part, come together into a cohesive story. And I think it's phenomenal that they can keep that level up, the level of intensity of layering for so long, and keeping the attention strong, keeping the melody line strong for such a long extended period, while also introducing all these elements of contrast and counterpoint. It is a very dense song that I think comes together very well. And the cool thing is, despite its density and complexity, I think most people, even if they don't understand all the nuances, can still come to this song and enjoy it for what it is on the surface, which is, to me, that's one of the most difficult things to do, is to create something with a ton of depth, but is also super accessible. So yeah, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed this song, but there's a few things in here that I found to be interesting decisions. I keep wanting to say questionable, but I don't want to have any negative connotations. I'm not saying that any of their decisions that I'm about to talk about are bad. They're just not what I would have done and not what I expected. And it hindered my personal enjoyment in a few sections, but that is a completely subjective thing. So going into this, I'm not saying anything they did was wrong. I just didn't necessarily enjoy it. Now, the first thing might just be me not being in the right headspace for this. The first minute and a half was gorgeous. Maybe even I could even probably push that to 2 minutes. Really gorgeous folk style, classical kind of composition. And then we pull in the metal aspect. We get the guitars in, we get the drums in, the vocals comes in not too long after that. And I realized that what I thought was going to be our entire 15 minutes of music was actually just the intro to a more traditional track. And that was a little bit of a letdown. I tried not to let it color my experience too much, but I think I'd be lying if I said that that disappointment didn't push through the rest of the track. But that's on me. Uh, let's see what else. Oh, they do bring back that intro section sporadically throughout the song, and it never really is incorporated into the music too strongly. We either have the Eastern style music or we have a Western style metal. Yeah, Eastern style folk or Western style metal. We don't really see them overlap too often. There was one section even where we ended the metal section, we brought back sort of that Eastern folk stuff for 4 bars, maybe 8 bars tops, and went right back to the metal, and it felt so disjointed. It was a very strange interlude, mini interlude there, where we it feels like we're constantly ditching one set of instruments for another and then moving back to another set of instruments, and it never feels quite as cohesive as I would like. I I don't necessarily think that the song should have utilized just the folk, the Eastern folk music as bookends, as an intro and outro section. I do think that those are the strongest sections for that style of music that they wrote, but I don't necessarily think that we needed isolated pockets of them throughout the song either, and having this back and forth of jumping between these two styles. I wish they would have been incorporated more closely throughout the middle of the song. That always felt a bit odd to me, to move back and forth between them, especially sometimes, like I said, 8 bars. It feels more like they didn't know how to transition between their two metal ideas and shoehorn that in there instead. Now, it's very possible that they had specific verses or lines from this story in mind as they wrote these sections, and they felt that that was the most important for that moment, for whatever line they were looking at, whatever sentence they were looking at. And in which case, yeah, like I said, this is all subjective, anyways. But I can see from that point, from that perspective. But also, there's a point where the music also needs to stand on its own. So I mean, it's weird. There's no right way to write music. There's no correct way. There's no rules to it. So I don't want to sit here and make it sound like I have an authority on how they should have written this. Again, I want to I want to state this. I'm not usually so harsh on music. This is subjective. It's just my personal tastes. Um, but it's just to me it takes me out. It takes me out of the music. And takes me out of the story and kind of reminds me that I'm listening to a song rather than having an experience. Um, what was another interesting choice? Oh, that piano tone. During the solo section, it had this really sharp, edgy, sort of electronic piano, I guess keyboard idea. Remind me of the keyboard from Arch Echo. I think that's the band. Instrumental, kind of proggy math rock kind of setup. Um, or even Dirty Loops. Kind of reminded me of the Dirty Loops guitar. The Dirty Loops piano. Dirty Loops doesn't even have a guitar, Brian. Um, it feels like it comes out of nowhere. I don't know that I heard it elsewhere. That timbre, at least the tone, I don't think I heard it anywhere else in the song. It kind of comes out of nowhere. I liked it. I do really enjoy that sound. It just it felt out of place to me, and maybe it's just because it hadn't been introduced to that point. I don't know. Um, oh, going back to this Eastern versus Western idea, I noticed that despite having all of these Eastern folk instruments at their disposal, and that they are very accomplished at writing the music for these instruments. Um, they showcase that in the first 2 minutes of the song. When it comes to the rock sections, they use violins and it sounds like brass horns, um, and more Western instruments during the metal parts when they want to bring in non-metal instruments. It seems so weird. It's this East versus West thing where they're at where that where they yeah where they are at odds with each other, rather than working together and creating an intertwined idea. But again, I just it doesn't detract that much. I've talked about it a lot. It really doesn't detract that much from my listening. There is still a lot of really great writing in here. There's beautiful layering, lots of great melodies. Um, and it's just, like I said, that atmosphere, the energy, the emotion that they're going for is perfectly suited. They knew exactly how to capture the story and put it into a sonic landscape. It's just that one aspect is just it's kind of weird to me, and it makes me nah. I was gonna say it makes me wonder uh, about their typical writing process, but I would wager to say that their typical writing, their metal, possibly with the horns and the violins, the strings. That all is just it's done on the same level of expertise as the intro and outro are. So I don't think that there's any need to question their writing. It might have just been maybe they didn't write the Eastern folk stuff. Maybe there was a guest composer for that. Maybe it was their first time writing for those tones and instruments. They didn't know how to incorporate it into their main style. I mean, there's tons of reasons. Like I said, it could have also just been that they were looking at a line from the story itself, and they wanted this specific texture to represent specific lines. Um, there's a lot of reasons of why this came to be, and they're mostly all legitimate. I don't think there's anything I could think of. It'd be like, yeah, there's just no reason to do that. It's just it really sticks out to me, and it pulled me out of the song a couple of times, which is a bit unfortunate given how much I enjoy a lot of these sections in isolation. So, anyways, those are my thoughts, both positive and negative, on Whispered's Blade in the Snow. I do feel like I went a bit hard on it, but I want everybody to know I did enjoy my time listening. I think the smiles on my face throughout, and picking out all the really cool things that they did throughout the reaction help solidify that. I enjoyed my time with this song, and I am interested in looking at more Whispered, especially maybe more of their core sound, the metal with the strings and the brass in it. Or, maybe just the metal. I don't know if the strings and brass are normal for them either. They just seem to be a lot more comfortable injecting that into their music. It could have also been a very conscious decision. I know I said we were over. Let me one more thing. They could have very, consciously said, "Hey, we don't want to mix the Eastern and the Western vibes here. We want to keep them separated for whatever reason. I don't know what reason they could have for that." And that's another legitimate decision that could have influenced and led to how the song was, how the song structure is. It's just that to me, one single person listening to this, it sounds odd. Okay, so yeah, this is where you guys come in. Those are my thoughts. Blade and Snow by Whispered. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this or not. Let me know if you thought I was being too hard on them. If you have any context revolving around their composition style and how they, if there's any interviews about the song specifically, I am more than happy to read them. I definitely want to be wrong about this and have my mind changed because I do enjoy so much about it. I kept getting pulled out. Above the comment section, there's a description box, and in there is a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here. You can support the channel through Patreon. You can access my Twitter if you want to follow me. You can hit up the Discord community, look around, join it, all sorts of stuff. It's all right here for you. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll be looking at our final unique vocals track for the week, and then a creator's request where I look at a song from a band who specifically said, "Hey, check out our stuff." So far, it has been a hit. I don't think we've had anything that wasn't really good, and there's been a few things that I've just been completely ecstatic about and had to do an even deeper dive into their music. All right, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.